Okay, so we're white people,
Mm-hmm.
and we're talking about race,
Right.
and we're Christians.
Yes.
You more than me, but we're both Christians.
Man, you either are or you're not. It's not like a more than. So.
Anywho, Christians don't like to talk about this stuff,
Okay.
except the ones that really want you to know that Black Lives Matter.
Right.
But everybody else doesn't like to talk about it.
Right.
So why don't they like to talk about it?
Okay. I think some of it is because all right, let me speak about it from a white. You're talking about from a white church perspective, right?
Well, yes.
Like
I guess.
why don't Christians want to talk about this?
Yes.
All right. So I think some of it is because we probably don't want to acknowledge that there's still racism that exists today. Okay. Because I do think that there is. And I think some of it is that. Some of it is because we do feel maybe awkward because we're the ones to blame, I think, for that. And it's the feeling. And so therefore this feels like a hard conversation to have. I do also wonder at times if it's just because we've become so kind of isolated in our own kind of white Christian groups that we're not having enough conversations with other Black Christians about racial issues and, things that concern them about racial equality and those kind of things. So I think there's all of that. But then I think also there's the side that has, because I do think there was when all the riots and everything happened in 2020, we had all the race riots.
I'm sorry, what?
When the race riots happened in 2020.
Do you mean the peaceful protests that happened in 2020?
Some of them were peaceful and some of them not so much.
Thank you.
Yeah. So, but when that started happening, and then CRT, critical race theory, sort of really getting pushed, and then what happened was in the church, it started kind of to bleed over into this idea of social justice, and I think that it actually ended up being pushed so hard because some of the CRT's tenets are that racism exists in every system, like our whole country in America is the way the whole system is set up is actually racist. Okay. As white people, you and I, yes, you're white, that we are inherently
white and proud of it, my friend.
There you go. And that we are inherently racist. And so I think when you start pushing those kind of talking points, I think that and the fact that we as white people we're actually told through critical race theory that we don't actually have a voice.
Right.
Because we don't have that lived experience as a Black person. So therefore we cannot speak toward it. And so therefore then your voice is taken away. And so then it makes it just even hard, I think, to even want to have conversations. You feel, I think it begins to cause a sense of, well, that's pushing the extreme maybe too far. And, and what do man, dadgum, I'm a white boy from South Georgia, and
here we go.
So I'm a white boy from South Georgia, grew up hunting, fishing, and all that kind of stuff, right? Wore the cowboy boots and well, for 1 year when I was in high school.
I grew up in Florida. I don't matter.
Yeah. You really don't.
No.
And so you're on your own thing. But I think that so you grow up in these things. I remember there being fights along racial lines when I was in high school.
Really?
Oh yeah.
Okay.
Because you had the LA riots that were happening at that point in time.
Oh yeah.
You had the O.J. Simpson trial happened while I was in high school. So all of these things created this racial tension there. But in the midst of all of that, South Georgia white boy that I am, I had a lot of good friends that were Black. To this day, I have good friends who are Black. And so
prove it.
We start counting them up, right? And so, but I think that that's part of the issue. It's because it's like I think what CRT does, unfortunately, is instead of creating platforms for healthy conversations, I think it actually shuts down those conversations.
So you think white Christian church people are afraid to talk about this because of that?
I think they're afraid to talk. One, because like I said earlier, they don't want to almost acknowledge racism. That's on them.
Okay.
So that's one part that's on them. And then I think the other part can be the CRT leanings.
Okay. So society is telling them to shut up.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Or but we will not.
Right. Or the racial things get grouped together with other, what we would consider progressive thoughts in regards to identity politics.
That we also can't talk about.
That we also don't want to deal with. And so it just, I think it perpetuates I think it perpetuates the lack of conversations and healthy dialogue, to be quite honest with you. So, because I think CRT, by creating the oppressor and oppressed dynamic, shuts down a lot of conversations immediately too.